In this video, we'll be going over the first part of Lesson 3. The first page of Lesson 3 is actually going to get skipped for now. It's a list of definitions that we're going to come back to after we've actually done some coding. So we can skip page 1 for now and take a look at page 2. The pages that this lesson is going to cover is pages 2 through 4. So the thing about pages 2 through 4 is that it's supposed to be self-guided and self-paced, meaning you should be able to go through pages 2 through 4 on your own, as long as you're sitting in front of a computer that has Google Chrome on it. So I'm going to try and demonstrate for you what you would be doing if you were sitting in front of a computer actually doing this coding for yourself. So because you're watching this video, it means that you are not able to get on a computer and do pages 2 through 4 on your own. If you are able to get on a computer and do this for yourself, you should. Pages 2 through 4 should be done on your own. But in the case where you can't access a computer, let's take a look. The first couple steps ask you to go to the website that has our editor, our software in it that allows us to actually code. Log in using your Google account username and password. If you don't have a Google account, you will need to make one for this because in order to save documents, we will have to have you logged into your Google account. Then the next couple steps tell you to start a new program and actually save it under a specific name. But I actually want to start with step 5, where you are asked to type in certain numbers and evaluate them in the interactions window on your screen. So remember, the left side is definitions, the right side is interactions. So as I type in, part A says 4 and hit enter, and part B, 7.2, hit enter. Take a look at what's being returned. Take a look at the output. -500, hit enter, and then 1/2, hit enter. So we want to come to a conclusion as far as when you type in a number and hit enter, what's the output? So to summarize, for A through D above, what were the outputs? We get back the same value entered. So if you enter the number 4, the output will be 4. If you enter the number -500, -500 will be the output. The one thing that's a little bit different is when we typed 1/2 as a fraction, it came back to us as a decimal, but those are equivalent values, so our summary here is still consistent. In number 6, we are practicing typing in code and evaluating it in the interactions window. So because you don't have a computer in front of you and you aren't able to do this for yourself, you're missing out on a lot of hands-on practice as far as where spaces are needed, where parentheses are needed, that kind of thing. But I will demonstrate for you. The first piece of code, when we add 10 and 9, evaluates to 19. When we subtract 4 and 5, written in correct code, it evaluates to -1. When we multiply 7 and 2, it evaluates to 14, and when we evaluate dividing 4 and -2, it evaluates to -2. So you can go ahead and write down those values in your packet. So in your Lesson 3 packet, Step 7 asks you to complete the following table, drawing the circle of evaluation and writing the correct code. Then evaluate your code in the interactions window on your computer. So for this table, the math expression is given. You need to do the circle of evaluation and you need to be writing the code. So please pause the video now. This is something that you learned how to do in Lesson 2, so you should be able to fill in the circle of evaluation column and the code column on your own. So pause the video now and we'll check back in a little bit. So here are the answers for the table at the bottom of page 2. Please check carefully that you have exactly what I have as far as parentheses and symbols and numbers, exactly as I have them. And what I'm going to demonstrate for you is typing these in to the interactions window as code. So in the first one, we're multiplying 7 and 5 plus 1, so written in correct code, I come up with this. That evaluates to 42. The second one, we are multiplying 15 divided by 3 and 7, which evaluates to 35. And in the third and final one, we are subtracting 4 plus 11 and 8 times 0. So written in correct code, we end up with that one evaluating to 15. So you can copy those answers down at the bottom of page 2. So once you have page 2 all filled in, let's take a look at page 3. Consider the circle of evaluation shown here. We see a circle of evaluation where the function name is at the top, and then there are certain inputs that are given to the function that's listed. So the first bullet point, what is the name of the function being used? The name of the function is star, not a symbol. It's not the asterisk that we use for multiplication. It's the word star. How many arguments or inputs are being given to that function? I see 1, 2, and 3 inputs that are being used for this function. So there are 3 inputs. The third bullet point, what do you think this function will do? Take a guess. If you need some time to think about it, go ahead and pause the video now and jot down a prediction. Otherwise, let's read step 9. Step 9 says the same rules you use to convert a circle of evaluation into code still apply. Type an open parentheses, then the function name, then each input separated by a space, then finally a closing parentheses. So here is the code. This code right here is for the circle of evaluation given up at the top. So step 10 asks us to actually type the code from number 9 into the interactions window and hit enter. So we actually want to evaluate this code. So let's type it in. Open parentheses, the function name is star, first input is 50, second input is the word solid in quotation marks, and the third input is the word red in quotation marks. Close the parentheses, and when I hit enter, you can see what it evaluated to. It evaluated to a picture of a red star. So what did you get back? A red star. So describe what the star function does. It appears, as far as we know, that the star function draws a star. The next bullet tells us to type the same expression from number 9 again, but this time use a much larger number in place of the 50, like 200. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste this code and edit the 50 and turn it into a 200. I do have to make sure my cursor goes all the way to the end of the line before I can evaluate it. And now it appears that I have a much larger star. So what can you conclude that the first input tells the computer? It appears that it is telling the computer the size of a star. So predict what will happen if you replaced 50 with the number 10. So what if we made the number smaller? What do you think would happen? Hopefully you're thinking that we would get a smaller star. We could try it and see what happens, but that is correct. We will get a smaller star. Type the expression from number 9 again, this time using outline instead of solid, being careful to keep the quotation marks. So let's paste the same code that I had copied before, but this time I want to use the word outline in between quotation marks. Get your cursor to the end of the line, evaluate it, and it appears that I have a different type of star. Instead of being filled in, it now is just the outline of a star. So what can you conclude that the second input tells the computer? It's telling the computer solid or outline. It's telling it how to make the shape. Last bullet point here, number 10, now replace red with blue. Keep the quotation marks. What can you conclude that the third input tells the computer? You could probably guess that when I change red to blue, instead of getting a red star, I'm going to get a blue star, which is exactly correct. So what can you conclude the third input tells the computer? Tells the computer the color. The color of the star. So number 11, we have a new definition here. So in addition to number being one type of data, we're now introduced to strings, a second type of data. A string is anything between quotation marks. So in numbers 12 through 15, we are asked to type in certain things into the interactions window and see what it evaluates to. So 716 evaluates to that. Red, between quotation marks, evaluates to that. that dog is huge. In quotation marks evaluates to that. And the number 135 in quotation marks evaluates to that. So you'll notice that the coloring is even different here. When the input is a number, it's blue. And when the input is a string, anything between quotation marks, it's green. Okay, so what we find here is that all of these evaluate to the same thing that I typed in. Nothing is changing. So the conclusion is, which two types of data evaluate to themselves? Numbers and strings evaluate to themselves. That's a very important idea for coding. So at this point, let's take a look at page 4. On page 4, number 16, we see that the expression star 50 solid red includes a new function called star that we've now explored a little bit. The star function takes in 3 total inputs. One of them is a number. Remember, that's the one that tells the computer the size, and 2 strings. One tells the computer solid or outline, the other tells the computer the color. Okay, the output is a new type of data called an image. An image, as we know in everyday life, the word image means a picture. So in number 17, A through G, I'd like you to go ahead and do them on your own. Identify if the data type listed below is a number, you can just write N, a string, you can write S, or an image, you can write I. So pause the video now and do A through G on your own. Here are the answers for 17A through G. Keep in mind, anything between quotation marks is a string, so B, E, and G, those are all in quotation marks, so those are strings. The picture of the triangle and the picture of the coffee cup, those are of course images. And the 2 numbers in A and C are just numbers, either a whole number like 42 or a decimal like in letter C. So let's take a look at the bottom of page 3. Type these into your interactions window, evaluate each, and circle whether the output is a number, string, or image. Okay, a couple important things. If you receive an error, you need to fix it. It's okay to get errors, but you have to be able to troubleshoot. Okay, the most common mistake is missing parentheses, so just be aware of that. Also, in order to evaluate, your cursor has to be at the end of the line of code. I did mention that earlier in the video. The shortcut on the computer or on the keyboard is to hit the key that says end, and it'll take you to the end of the line. So what I'm going to do is type each of these into the the interactions window, and let's see what they all evaluate to. So here at the bottom of my interactions window, you can see that I've typed in the first 3 pieces of code in letters A, B, and C. You can see that each of those pieces of code evaluated to a number. You can tell by the color because numbers are going to be blue in our software, but also we know 64, 11, and 3 are numbers. So you can go ahead and jot that down on page 4 of your packet, and let's take a look at the next one. The next one is star, 500, solid, and purple. So keep in mind the 500 is telling the computer the size. So this is going to be a really big star. This is going to be a really large purple star that I could scroll over and we could take a look at it. But it's there. It's a very large purple star, which is a number, a string, or an image. You should be circling an image. It's a picture of a star. Okay, in the next one, letter E, we have a star, where instead of giving a size, we're being given an actual expression, 10 plus 3, that will represent the size. We want outline and blue, and we get, it's actually a size 13 outlined blue star, so that is an image. In the next one, let me go ahead and type in this code. It evaluates to a number. And then finally, quotation marks, I have the best teacher. End quotation marks, when I hit enter, it's in green, it's between quotation marks, that is a string. So this is what the bottom of page 4 should look like in your lesson 3 packet, and that concludes this part 1 video for lesson 3.